Welcome to America's Angels, TBRI Module 6, Empowering Principles, Ecological Strategies. In this module, we will look at ecological strategies, the importance of predictable environment, strategies for creating a more predictable environment, and scaffolding self-regulation. In the last session, we talked about how the empowering principles and strategies are related to felt safety, connection, and giving voice. You'll notice these same concepts coming up in this session on the ecological strategies. As we learn more about empowering principles, it can be helpful to think about physiological strategies as strategies focused on the internal environment. Physiology is defined as how the bodies of living things work. The ecological strategies are focused on the external environment. Ecology is defined as the pattern of relationships between living things and their environment. Additionally, you might hear or read the ecological strategies also referred to as the wisdom of place. This reflects the idea that humans are impacted by their environment. And because that impact is largely subconscious, it can be considered wisdom because we know it, we experience it, but we can't always explain it. To illustrate this point, let's talk about 3 characteristics of place that help make up the ecological strategies. Settings, emotional climates, and artifacts or tools. You can think of the setting as the physical or sensory experience of a place. It is the sounds, sights, smells, tastes, and feel of a place. For example, you could enter a hospital and know it's a hospital without reading any signs because of the lighting, the beeping of machines, and the smell of cleaners being used, the setup of the waiting room, or the long hallways. If you've been in a hospital before, your brain and body will recognize these characteristics without anyone having to tell you where you are. There are more personal examples of this too. For example, you may always disliked gym class, but you weren't sure why. If you think back on it, there might be some sensory experiences that you didn't like. For example, the lighting was too bright. The walls echoed too much. There were always people bumping into each other. For a more positive example of this, think about a place that you always found to be comforting and what that sensory experience was like for you. Maybe you always liked being at your grandparents' house. And so now, if you smell something that reminds you of their house, it would bring a sense of happiness or comfort. We can have positive or negative memories tied to a place, and those feelings impact how we react to a place that remind us of them. That's why we talk about sensory needs, because certain sights, sounds, or smells can trigger memories of a negative experience, putting the brain and body on high alert. This is what we mean by physical or sensory experience of a place. Setting is an ecological strategy because there are things you can do to create a more positive or calming setting that supports a child's needs. In general, you can think about setting up the space to be a more alerting or calming sensory experience, depending on your goal for the space. Most people are looking to bring more calmness to their space. So that is what we will focus on here. This includes things like softer lighting or natural lighting, softer paint colors on the walls, comfortable seating, not using intense air fresheners, and awareness of the sound in the space. Sound reducing panels for large rooms that echo, soft music, or nature sounds. We will talk more about other tools that can be added to a space to support regulation when we talk about artifacts. The emotional climate, sometimes called the social climate, is the emotional experience of a place. For example, think about a classroom. You could observe different classrooms for an hour and see that each classroom has a different emotional climate. You might not be able to articulate the exact differences, but you'll notice things like the interactions between the teacher and the students, and the interactions between the students. If the students seem engaged, if the students look eager or confused, and so on. We are constantly evaluating the emotional climate of a place. If we go to a doctor's office or a store, we're noticing how the employees are interacting with each other. And we're noticing if people seem weary. Do the interactions appear distant and uncertain? Or do the individuals seem to genuinely enjoy working together? Think about any time you had to choose between two places offering similar services. If you liked one place and didn't like the other, can you look back now and see how the emotional climate may have impacted your decision? You may not be able to clearly explain it, but one place may have felt unsettling, uncomfortable, unwelcoming, or impersonal. Even if the physical setting looked the same, the emotional climates can be different. Emotional climate is an ecological strategy because just like with the setting, there are things you can do to create a calmer, more welcoming emotional climate that supports felt safety, connection, and regulation. Using TBRI in general helps create a more supportive emotional climate since this strategy is mostly about relationships, interactions, and expectations, all of which are covered in the other TBRI principles and strategies. When you use the engagement, physiological, and proactive strategies, engaging people, supporting their regulation, and setting clear boundaries, you create an emotional climate where people feel safe and capable of navigating the environment. TBRI is all about relationships, so the ecological strategies will be most effective if they are used in a relational way. Being intentional about the emotional climate we want to create can help us remember that. Artifacts are any physical or conceptual tool that helps you navigate the world and your environment. For example, a clock or a calendar is a tool that we use to help us monitor the passing of time. Like settings and emotional climates, artifacts can have deeper meaning because we come to associate different artifacts with different experiences or groups. For example, a flag might have sentimental meaning. A stuffed animal is not just a representation of an animal. It's something that can bring comfort, and the sight of a medicine bottle might send a toddler running because they don't like the taste. Artifacts are an ecological strategy because there are certain tools that we can add to an environment that can impact the setting and emotional climate. And some tools can directly support regulation. Artifacts like artwork, posters with rules, stick together, no hurts, have fun, comfortable seating, snacks and water, coloring activities, and a schedule can all help set the stage for a calmer and supportive setting and emotional climate. Tools specifically designed to support regulation include things like noise-canceling headphones, weighted blankets or stuffed animals, fidgets, and a place with softer lighting. Again, these items alone will not fully support regulation. Children will still need to be taught in relationships how to use these different items if they don't recognize them. Some kinds of physical and social circumstances help a person come to life. Others make it very difficult. Let's reflect. Describe a time when you tuned into your gut feelings or internal senses when entering a new place or an environment. How do these feelings influence your behavior? By now, hopefully, you're starting to see how cues from the external environment can impact your perceptions and behaviors. One researcher uses the term ambient belonging to describe how people quickly scan a new space to decide if they feel like they fit in or belong there. Even without direct interpersonal interaction, other researchers have studied how both the physical setting and the emotional climate of a classroom can impact learning. In one study, researchers were so detailed that they found that natural indirect sunlight produced a better academic performance in students than direct sunlight. The same study found that mostly white walls with one accent wall of color were better for learning because too much color can be overstimulating, but some color can help direct attention. These are just some examples of the way our environment can impact our experiences and our behavior. Why is a predictable environment important? In this session on physiological strategies, we introduced the internal senses and talked about interoception, or the awareness of the inner state of the body. In that session, we learned about how our internal sensations are closely connected to the stress response system and how a lack of internal awareness can quickly lead to dysregulation. Interoception is also an important factor of the ecological strategies because it explains part of the interaction between our past experiences, our current environment, and our regulation. As we develop, learn, and explore our environment, our brain is gathering information and filling it away for future reference. Our brains are detecting patterns in our experiences to help us respond more quickly and effectively in the future. Much of this is happening subconsciously, meaning our brain is recognizing patterns even if we aren't consciously aware of the patterns or cannot explain them. When we are faced with a new experience, our body is automatically reviewing our collection of memories, experiences, and patterns to see which ones might be relevant to the current situation. Interoception is what gives us the signals that a pattern has been detected. For example, you might feel tension in your body before you are consciously aware that you're anxious about something. You might feel relief or relaxation in your body before you're consciously aware that you are no longer upset. Interoception helps explain why felt safety and regulation are impacted by our external environment. The signals we receive from our interoceptive senses can be what causes us to flip our lid before our brain realizes what's happening. This is true for all humans, but is especially important to consider when caring for children who have experienced toxic stress. If their brain detects a pattern that is similar to something negative and highly stressful in the past, their body might alert them that something similar could happen and immediately call on their survival strategies. For example, if someone in a store is wearing the same cologne as someone scary or harmful, a person's brain and body might go into survival mode when that person walks by. A more common example includes continuing to avoid the food that gave you food poisoning years ago. These internal cues from our body help explain the concept of felt safety, because it's not about the conscious awareness of the environment. It's about the presence or the absence of a pattern that the brain has flagged as a threat. Let's listen in.
We're talking about felt safety. Can you guys talk to me a little bit about what felt safety means to you?
Yeah, when I think about felt safety, I think about how do I feel in my soul? Like, does my body, not just my brain, but does my body and do my emotions tell me that I'm safe and I'm comfortable, that I don't have to be on alert, I don't have to be worried, like, okay, is what you're saying really true? Do you really have my back? Are you really going to do what you say? And when I think about it with, kids in particular who have gone through difficult things, and for all of us who've gone through difficult things, we have that baggage. We have those experiences in our history, and that will influence how we are able to develop a sense of felt safety with somebody new based on our prior experiences. So if all of the women, or if the women that I've interacted with look like you, and those women have not kept me safe, then it's going to be really hard for me to believe you when you say, I'm going to keep you safe and I'm going to give you what you need. And it's going to take longer for you to prove that to me, because all of my prior experiences will say otherwise.
I like that explanation of felt safety, and I always tend to go to what is not, completely, because when people hear felt safety, hear safety, I think we automatically go to physical safety. Are the doors locked? You're protected. I'm not going to allow anything to happen to you, physically. But just emphasizing what you said about it's that internal state. What does my internal system say that lets me know that I'm safe? I'm calm, and always in the day-to-day, I think of I have this visual of like this thermometer, and it kind of goes up and down. And as I'm interacting with young people, I'm kind of internally viewing this felt safety thermometer, and I want that thermometer, that felt safety in that thermometer to be low, because I want them to be in a calm space, in a calm state, and my interaction, with our young people, it impacts, that feeling of felt safety. So it's a must. And what we talk about a lot with TBRI is we must feel safe. When we feel safe, we can trust. If I can trust you, I can connect with you. And then everything else, not easy, but it gets a little easier.
I think self-regulation is a component of that too. And that, if I am dysregulated, then I'm not going to feel safe. And I need to be able to trust whoever I'm around in order to also feel regulated and to feel safe. And I think a part of that is being able to use my voice and negotiate my needs and say, hey, this is what's going on for me.
Yeah, I think felt safety, the briefest way I know to describe it is feeling safe within myself and for myself. It doesn't matter if you tell me I'm safe, or I know I'm safe because I, watched you set the alarm, and I know that we live in a safe neighborhood, or any of those things, if I don't feel safe within myself and for myself. And so I think it truly is that inner thing that we can't tell someone, no, you are safe, calm down, you're safe, right? That won't work if I don't feel safe within myself and for myself. So.
And do we have somebody we can rely on? So if there are pieces of that puzzle that may enter in and create a sense of lack of safety for whatever reason, do we have somebody that we can rely on who's going to kind of fill that need for us and protect us no matter what. Somebody who's got us.
As a reminder, experiences from the past are not the only thing that can cause a child to flip their lid and enter into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn survival behaviors. In general, if a child is feeling uncertain about a situation, is receiving too much or too little sensory input, or is just going through a hard time, caregivers can start to see these behaviors. Children might tend to use one of these responses often, or you might see a combination of these behaviors in the same child, depending on the situation. Think of a child in your care, or a child you know. How might you categorize their survival strategies as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses? The brain and body's power to detect patterns is part of the reason why creating predictability in the environment is an important part of TBRI and the ecological strategies, because a child's brain is detecting patterns. TBRI can help you be intentional about the patterns the brain is detecting in the environments that you are creating. For example, if a child knows what to expect when they get home from school, their brain is less likely to see each day as a new experience that it needs to label as safe or not. Creating a predictable environment can also help when something else is causing dysregulation, because the child isn't experiencing the added layer of stress of not knowing what to expect. When a child understands that, even during episodes of disruptive behavior or withdrawal, they can rely on their caregiver for a predictable, effective, and attuned response. They can recover from dysregulation more quickly. Considering the three categories previously discussed, physical setting, emotional climate, and the artifacts and tools, this section will explore more specific strategies for creating more predictable environments for children in our care. Often children who have experienced toxic stress need additional support around daily and life transitions, because the part of their brain associated with planning may not have developed optimally. Even when a child has had many repetitions of making the same daily transition, they may still need support. Some daily transitions are hard for everyone, especially if you're transitioning from something you like doing to something you don't like doing. That takes a lot of self-regulation to stop the fun activity to move on to a not so fun activity. Even switching between two fun activities can be hard, because the brain has to stop thinking about the one thing and start focusing on something else. If we think about the 5 B's and how the brain is impacted by toxic stress, it makes sense that children might need additional support during transitions. Additionally, when a child's brain is wired for survival, they often view their environment as a place where there always is a potential for danger. Transitioning to something that seems unknown or unfamiliar can be even trickier. Even if a child is going to a place they have been before, not knowing what exactly will happen on this day can be stressful. Therefore, we need to provide as much support as the child needs at that moment to support the transition. It can be helpful to think of the transitions in 2 categories: daily transitions and life transitions. We undergo numerous daily transitions as we move from one activity to another throughout the day. This requires preparation, thinking, concentration, and mental flexibility. Everyone has a different capacity to manage transition based on their current state, brain development, and regulation. Anything that impacts regulation is going to impact a child's ability to successfully transition from one thing to the next. We also go through life transitions, which can be expected or unexpected. They can include starting a new school, going to college, moving out of your caregiver's home, caregivers getting a divorce, or being removed from one's family of origin. For children who have experienced toxic stress, life transitions may be more difficult and require more support. A life transition, expected or not, comes with a lot of unknowns and uncertainty, which can result in lack of felt safety. Oftentimes, caregivers are hesitant or afraid to share about big transitions with children because they know it will elicit big emotions, which often look like bad behaviors. When caregivers are willing to create a safe place for children to prepare for a life transition, they can help reduce the child's anxiety around that transition and give the child space to build confidence and learn to trust both themselves and the safe adults who care for them. Even if it is a really hard transition, caregivers can work to support the child through big emotions. Remember, the brain is very good at detecting patterns, which means it is also good at detecting when something feels off. When caregivers or others around the child start acting differently, leading up to a life transition, children often pick up on those changes. Without clear communication, this can leave children feeling even more confused and afraid. They sense that something is wrong or that something is changing, but do not understand what it is. We will talk about scaffolding self-regulation a bit later, but one thing to keep in mind is that the goal of regulation isn't to always be calm. When there is a big life transition coming up, it is normal to have big feelings. We just want to help children learn to navigate these big feelings in a healthy way.
Big jump, and then the ball. And then we get to go to group, okay? Remember?
If you think about this, you think about a child has come from a place where they're holding on, they're trying to stay where they've got everything under control, they're trying to stay where they know where everything is going on.
You know what?
And now something changes. Many of our children fall apart.
Okay, listen. Would you like listen to me? Let me see. Let me see.
They can get very anxious, particularly when they're in a new environment. What's going to happen next? What am I doing now? And who am I going to be doing with? And are you going to be there with me?
Announcing transitions can also help guide your child through the day's activities.
5 minutes to Miss Karen's group.
Transitions are one of the most challenging situations that our families face. Transitions are enormous for our children.
2 minutes. Taisha, how many minutes? 2. Good.
We'll always try to give them a 5-minute warning and then maybe a 3-minute warning and a 1-minute warning so they can gear down because they just don't make the abrupt shifts. Chloe, we're going to take, let me see eyes, 3 more minutes to color, and then we're going to do a couple of other things and we'll come back to coloring. Fair enough? Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Woo-hoo, I like that. What we're trying to do with the transition is help the child prepare for a shift so that they can come along with us. Our children are fragile neurochemically. They're fragile cognitively. They don't process input. Data coming in is not processed at the rate of speed. It takes them a while to get the information, to process the information, and be able to move safely.
Let's brainstorm all of the different transitions you typically experience in a day. How can you create more predictability around some of these transitions? Do you feel dysregulated when things when some things in your environment change or do not go as planned. Routines and rituals can help children learn numerous skills. First, it's helpful to understand the difference between the routines and rituals. Routines are consistent practices that help people be prepared and know what to expect, like morning routine. Rituals allow people to strengthen their relationships with one another through small, unique daily practices. Rituals can be routine or a part of a routine, but they have an added component of building connection. To illustrate the difference between routines and rituals, consider bedtime. An example of a bedtime routine is to take a bath, read a book, and turn out the lights. An example of a bedtime ritual is for the caregiver to sing to the child while rubbing their back. Routines help children know what to expect, which can help calm their stress responses by increasing felt safety. If a child knows what is coming next and the expectations for their behavior, their brain and body can be less vigilant, more regulated, and more confident. Remember how toxic stress impacts the belief system and how attachment influences self-efficacy or your belief in your ability to succeed at a task. Children who have experienced toxic stress might not believe that they can successfully navigate any situation. Routines help set children up for success because the repetition of the activity helps them learn what they are supposed to do, and eventually they can trust themselves to handle the situation or activity well. With routines, we have to remember the balance of structure and nurture. Routines can help provide structure, but that does not mean there is an absence of nurture. Caregivers should try to establish consistent routines while staying flexible to meet both the child's and their own needs in the moment. And TBRI routines are meant to support felt safety and regulation, not to override those core goals. Rituals like routines can help children know what to expect, and they can be used to reinforce skills and learning, which we will discuss more in session on correcting principles. Proactive strategies. Remember that a ritual is also something that builds connection. Rituals can be something that is done daily or regularly and can be used on their own or as a strategy to help offer support during transitions and other difficult times. For example, if children in a classroom often have trouble getting back to a calm state after recess, a teacher might start a ritual that includes a song, dance, breathing exercise, or some other regulation strategy that the students do together every time they come back from recess. Rituals can also be a proactive way to meet a child's need before they become dysregulated. For example, a caregiver might have a ritual of spending 5 minutes with their child when they get home from work each day. The 5 minutes of uninterrupted time with a fully present caregiver will help the child feel seen, important, and connected with their caregiver. This caregiver might find that on days when they skip this ritual, the child seems to do other things to get the caregiver's attention. Therefore, establishing this consistent ritual can help the caregiver and the child avoid a more frustrating pattern of child seeking the caregiver's attention in other ways. Rituals can be a great way to produce other TBRI principles, other TBRI principles and strategies. Caregivers and children can practice the engagement strategies during a ritual. Rituals can be designed to provide sensory input, cultivate interoceptive awareness, and practice the proactive strategies that we will talk about in the next session. As we've learned in the previous sessions, self-regulation is a skill that must be taught. Humans are not born knowing how to self-regulate. Through early relationships and in optimal circumstances, children grow through phases of other regulation, co-regulation, and self-regulation. However, if a child did not go through this process with a caregiver, they might struggle to self-regulate until someone teaches them in a safe, connected way. In TBRI, you will hear the term scaffolding, which means providing temporary support as someone is learning a new skill. When the skill is new, a person will require a lot of support, but over time, as they start to master the skill, they will need less and less support. So, when we say we're scaffolding self-regulation, we mean that we are offering enough support for a child to regulate and feel successful in that moment. The goal of scaffolding self-regulation isn't to ensure that a child never flips their lid or experience big or negative emotion. All emotions, even those that are sometimes labeled as bad, are part of the human experience, and in many cases, they are appropriate responses to a situation. For example, it's appropriate to feel frustrated when you are learning something new and you can't quite seem to master it. It's appropriate to feel angry when someone says you can't have something that you want. It's appropriate to feel sad when you find out you're moving away from your childhood home. It's appropriate to feel anxious when a loved one is sick. It's appropriate to feel hyper and excited when your favorite team just won a big game. Regulation is the act of monitoring, processing, and adjusting how our body feels so that our energy level can match the environment or social expectations. Sometimes being calm does not match the environment. There are some situations where it is appropriate and acceptable to be high energy or on high alert. To help scaffold regulation, caregivers must help children notice how their body feels and teach them skills to help them regulate. One way to help children become more aware of their current state of regulation is to do regulation checks. A regulation check is an easy, playful way to help people identify their current energy level and then decide how to shift their energy to a level needed for the situation. The just right zone is where a person is regulating their energy level to match the environment and social contexts. Having a script and a visual can help guide regulation checks without the need for lengthy explanation and language processing. When developing a script or visual for regulation checks, offer at least 3 options. One for low energy, one for just right energy levels, and one for a lot of or high energy.
Does anybody know what self-regulate means? What does it mean?
Calm yourself by yourself.
There you go, calm yourself by yourself. Self-regulation is kind of a mouthful for a small child, but we try to teach them the term because it's an important term. Self-regulation simply means I'm learning to monitor my behaviors and thoughts and actions, and then I'm learning to modulate them.
Did you hear that? Okay. So what does that mean? John Nathaniel.
Because this is one area where children who come from hard places have a lot of difficulty. They have a trouble regulating their emotions, they have trouble regulating their behaviors, they have trouble regulating their thought.
Exhale.
There are many playful exercises you can do with your child to help him or her learn how to self-regulate.
3 things that we can do to calm ourselves.
One skill we might teach them is how to hold a pressure point and count.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, how many of y'all are feeling a little calmer again?
And then we'll check the engine again. And if some of the engines are still in the red, we might do another activity.
Push up. 1, 2, 3.
We might ask them to do a chair sit-up, which is where they push up and count to 10.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, that's nice. Another blanket could be shared by a couple of people, right?
We might invite them to use a little weighted blanket that is self-calming, or a little neck weight that is calming.
Yeah.
If we're going to have a difficult conversation or we're going to talk about tough things, we may give them a wad of bubble gum or a sweet supper to chew on.
I'm getting muscles.
You're getting muscles. Whoa! Keep pushing.
Pushing against a wall is a great calming technique.
These experiences are designed to provide children with the kinds of sensory and muscular stimulation that will help their nervous system organize itself so they can do the things that are required of them. So they can learn, they can read, they can interact with others.
Push it.
Even the choice of certain foods can help a child self-regulate.
Oh yeah, that is an elephant.
Okay, when you get hungry, would you let your buddy know if you're ready for your snack?
What we know is that foods that are sweet are calming. Foods that are sour are alerting. Deep, are you breathing too, buddy?
Just as children take that first step of awareness towards self-regulation, so should parents.
Now, parents, when y'all go home, this is a cool thing to put on the fridge door for everybody in the family or someplace in the house. And every family member can check a few times a day, like maybe before meals or sometimes, just check engines.
For better or worse, how your engine is running and how you respond to your child directly impacts his or her behavior.
John Nathaniel, how do we regulate? How do we make our engine green, John Nathaniel? John Nathaniel, we don't hurt our friends.
It's also critical for parents to recognize the difference between a child being willful and a child who is incapable of regulating without help.
Jonathan, can you regulate yourself, or does Miss Karen? Okay, I'm gonna give you 1 minute to regulate yourself. Let me see yourself regulate. That's good work.
Didn't that touch your heart?
There are signs you can look for to help determine your child's ability to control his or her behavior.
So see, what I'm gonna do is just, that's a good boy right there. And I put my hand there, but I'm monitoring his heart. And you'll find that a lot of times when they look behaviorally blunted, the heart's just pounding through the chest.
Okay.
So we're gonna start watching for, can I touch your cheek? We're gonna start watching for how tight this is. We're gonna look for pupil dilation. We're gonna just do this sometimes, or we can put our hand on the shoulder in this pulse and feel. Hey, sweetie, tell me what you need. Okay. And we're also gonna be looking for how deep the breathing is. Those are all stress systems.
Mr. Jim is going to have a list for you all today. And he's going to ask you all, I'm going to ask you all to go to him if you would like to let us buy you a weighted blanket of your own. The second thing is, if you want a lizard neck roll, if you'll tell Mr. Jim that too. What we want is for you all to have the tools to help when you feel upset or distressed. Like sometimes when I'm just upset about something, this is part of my way to calm myself. How many of y'all put a bunch of blankets on your bed sometimes at night? I love the weight. And sometimes I wake up, sweating because it's so heavy, but I love the weight. And so it just makes us more calm. See, there's a chemical in your brain that's called serotonin. I know that's kind of a big word, but serotonin makes you feel calm. And so when you wrap a weighted blanket on you around your shoulders while you watch TV. Sometimes our kids like to get down in a beanbag and pull a weighted blanket up over them, or sometimes they wrap it around their shoulders, or sometimes when you sleep at night, it releases in your body that chemical that helps you sleep well and feel calm. It's just a natural thing. When you were a baby, if you were with a safe adult. If you cried, they held you real tight. And if you cried harder, they held you tighter. And that gave you serotonin and you felt calm. And that's what a weighted blanket does for you. Okay?
This section will explore different regulation strategies to try with children to help them discover what works best for them. When teaching these strategies, keep two things in mind. First, practice when children are calm. New skills can't be learned in moments of dysregulation. Second, practice together. In relationship, since regulation develops through attachment, learning should happen within the context of healthy attachment.
Tell me what's going on, darling.
No.
Okay, here, wait. Let me try this. Let's see. Can you just talk to me? Talk to me. What's going on, honey? Talk to me.
Someone stopped me spinning and I hate it.
Oh, did they stop you? Okay, use your words. Use your words. You don't want them to stop you spinning? Okay, do you want to spin again? Okay. We can spin again in a minute. But let's calm down. Were you on the sit and spin?
Yes.
Okay.
Angry.
You're angry. That's good words.
She was about to hit the bar.
Okay.
So
Oh. They wrecked it. Okay. Has she been over there time? Okay, now wait. Okay, Abigail. Listen now. We've got two choices. Listen. If you can pull yourself together and self-regulate, I'll help you, okay?
No, I don't need help.
Abigail, try to help me, baby. Try to help me. Come on, try to help me, honey.
That's too hard.
It is hard, pumpkin. Try to help me.
No.
Can I get you something cold to drink?
Yes.
What would you like? Do you want a soda? Do you want a soda?
Yeah.
Your lemonade? Her lemonade?
I don't have any. I don't even
You don't have any?
any.
All right, let's get $1 and go find lemonade in the next door machine, okay?
No.
No, what?
Can you get Elizabeth too?
Sure, Elizabeth, could you do that for us? A lemonade, that's your best? Is that your favorite?
Yes.
Okay, let's get it. What else is your favorite?
I don't have any other favorite.
Okay, do you have a favorite snack that we've got here right now?
No.
No favorite snack?
Mhm.
Oh, you're doing a good job of calming yourself. Wow, look at you go. You're doing so good. She's gonna go get lemonade. And you know what? In just in a minute, we're just gonna breathe for a minute. There will be.
I want to go home.
Yes, your mama's gonna be here in about 5 minutes, and she's gonna be looking for her beautiful girl. Okay?
Can you tell her about our mistake?
Sure.
But tell her, don't just tell her Abby ruined the day. Tell her that.
Abby, you did not ruin the day.
That
Abigail,
we fixed it.
we fixed it, honey. Darling, you did not ruin the day. You just had a little problem. I had a little problem earlier. Did you know I had a little problem? I got to camp this morning, and did you know I was having a kind of a tantrum? Because I was really too tired from yesterday, and did you know I was crying this morning before camp started? I was sitting out there on the grass crying because I said, I don't know how we're going to help these children. We don't have enough time. Because you know what? I felt so sad. I had a little meltdown this morning because I was sad, and I was too tired. Did you know it? I was too tired. I had a little kind of a meltdown. And then you know what?
Happened to me
Of
too.
course it is. Everybody has meltdowns sometimes, right?
I was probably because I was tired.
That's exactly why, Abigail. It's nothing, no problem at all. This is no problem at all. You did not ruin anybody's day, okay?
Okay.
You're a sunshine girl. I like to be with you. I like to see you. You're a good girl. We're gonna get some liquid. Oh, thank you.
I don't need
You don't need them yet? Oh, okay. Well, we'll get them when you're ready for them. You just tell me when you want them,
They
okay?
drive me nuts. I don't
They
want
drive
to
you
do
nuts.
it. I don't need
Do you know what? Mine drive me nuts too.
it.
Yeah? Want them? No? You ready to? Yeah. Okay, good. You helping me out here? Oh, lemonade coming right there.
At this point in the training, you've learned about the foundations of TBRI, the connecting principles, and the empowering principles. I understand that it's a lot of information to take in, and it can be hard to visualize what TBRI looks like in interactions with children. We're going to continue to watch videos in each of these sections of Dr. Purvis, just as the one we watched a second ago. Think back to the engagement strategies, physiological strategies, and the ecological strategies. Try to also keep the 5 B's in mind. What do you notice about, or what did you notice about the child's brain, biology, body, beliefs, and behaviors in the previous videos? It's just something to think about as we wrap up this section. In Module 6, we learned about the ecological strategies, the importance of predictable environment, creating a more predictable environment, and scaffolding self-regulation. And the next session, we'll talk about the TBRI correcting principles, proactive strategies. Bye for now, and see you over in Module 7.